mom's, they're from Mexico. They're immigrants from Mexico. We grew up really poor. We didn't really have anything. I had this really old piano, and I was taking piano lessons from a high school student. And so I didn't have anything. We didn't have TV. We didn't have anything else, So I just played piano all day. And I'm in this tiny little town where, nobody does music. As we moved later to Roswell, New Mexico, I'm surrounded by farmland. I raised pigs. I mowed lawns for money on the weekends and worked in a tortilla factory and all that sort of thing. And then as I got older, I just, since I was a kid, since I started piano lessons when I was about 4 or 5, I always wanted to do music for a living. And so for me, it was, okay, how do I do this? And I'm looking around and all I'm seeing is like cows and dairy farms. All my friends were farmers. And so I thought, okay, I need to get to people. How do I get to people? And I recorded my first album in a closet. And I just had decided I wasn't going to do anything else for a living, but I was going to make it happen. This was it. I wasn't going to have a plan B. And so I looked around and said, okay, how do I get to people? Because the more people that can get exposed to my album, right, I might get more sales and then I can make a living. So the first thing that came to mind was going door to door. So I started knocking on people's doors when I was about 16, after I recorded my first CD, 16 or 17. And I would knock on almost 100 doors a day. And 9 out of 10 people would tell me no, but 1 out of 10 would say yes. And that 1 out of 10 would buy a CD for $10. So if I could sell 10 CDs a day, I would make $100, and that'd be enough for me to survive. That'd be enough for me to invest into some studio time, maybe buy me a piano, a keyboard, a microphone, little things. I was scraping by though. And I was, sleeping on friends' couches as I got older. I didn't go to college. I just wanted to do music, and I was going door to door trying to figure it out. And it took me 8 years. It took me 8 years to figure it out. And then I just realized, I thought, gosh, I have all the talent. I know that I have the talent, but I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? And I think this is a story for a lot of artists and musicians out there. They're like, turn on the radio. That's a testament to that talent doesn't always equal money. In fact, most of the time it doesn't. It's 10% talent, 90% strategy, 90%, figuring out a plan. And so for me, I started looking at other artists and going, okay, these people are traveling the world, performing on stages, and I have way more talent than them. So what are they doing right? And what am I doing wrong? And so that's when I started studying and started figuring out, and started being creative. Okay, I can't sustain going door to door. This isn't great. This isn't good for me. I don't really like it. I'm not performing. I felt like I was just, begging on people's doorsteps. People were really mean. They were slamming doors in my faces. I was getting chased by dogs, like it just wasn't something that I wanted to continue doing.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So, it'd be 110 degrees outside sometimes. And, so I just started figuring it out. I started going, I'm going to stop winging it. I'm going to start looking at this as a business, because, you don't just wing a business. You have to have a business plan. And that's when I started taking it seriously. And I got my very first gig at a hotel lounge. I was only playing part-time, a couple hours a day, making $70,000 a year. And I had never made more than, $10,000 a year before that. So all of a sudden going from 10,000 to 70,000 working part-time, that's not even full-time, sitting at a piano, doing what I love, meeting people, being on stage, making an impact, feeling like my talents were finally being used, seeing people get excited, because the impact is great. I love making money, but I also love seeing that people are really enjoying themselves and knowing that I'm living out my purpose, and that's what I did. That's in a nutshell. I just had to figure it out. And that's how I got here now, having traveled, 6 continents, like you said. And now it's a very different story than me going door to door anymore.
Well, just the fact that you had that hustle to go door to door, I have the utmost respect for door to door people. Like, if you firmly believe in yourself and you just have the guts to go door to door, that just shows like you're all in.
Yeah, so, it definitely was. It was not easy. People are mostly annoyed by door to door salesmen. I don't know anybody that goes, I love door to door salesmen. No, most people are like, don't answer it, go away. And I was no exception. People did the same thing to me. So to keep going, but I just was like, I don't want to do anything else. I'm going to do music, and this is the only way I know how to do it right now, but I'm going to figure it out. I knew where I was going. I just didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was not going to go take another job and waste my time, because time is something you're not going to get back. So I'm going to put all my time into making my music career happen, even if it means that I'm just taking the tiniest steps at a time. At least I'm making progress.
Yeah, I mean, not the most effective way to be marketing door to door, but still,
No, not
it's
at all.
it's you had the intentionality to do it.
Mhm.
So obviously, there's much better tools which you found,
Yes,
but
so much better tools.
the willingness to get off your butt and go do something when a lot of people just think like, okay, my song's on Spotify, that means people are just going to come to my show, or
Well, and
yeah.
this was like 16 years ago when I started doing this. We didn't really have a lot of access to a lot of the resources now. There weren't a lot of, people teaching how to make a living doing music. Everyone thought you had to have a record label, so 16 years ago, it was like there just wasn't, I was just trying to figure it out with the resources that I had and coming from New Mexico, and now it's like the people that I work with now. I mean, I just worked with a young lady who had never done a paid show in her life. She was a student. She had very little time. We got her first paid show in 2 weeks. And that's the difference between, working with, an actual plan and not having a plan. I spent 8 years struggling, 8 years going door to door, and now can work with people and book them shows within 2 weeks. Like that is a dramatic difference.
Yeah. So walk us through that journey a little bit. The course, like how did that come to be? A little bit of the elements of it. Like you said that this student got booked in a couple weeks. So what does that look like for anybody that's listening? Then, they have the talent, but they're not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I take basically everything that I learned in those 8 years. And I decided I do a lot of, I love giving back to the community, right? So I do a lot of charity stuff. I've done a lot of stuff in like Africa and Thailand and Peru. I work with special education students. I work with, a lot of low income communities. I mentioned earlier, I traveled around the country and did a 3-month charity tour. I performed for a lot of kids at Boys and Girls Clubs and stuff like that. So I'm really passionate about that. And I asked myself the question last year, how do I continue to do music but give back? And, how can I make this really possible and also create a place for me, because I really wanted to. I took a special love for, I worked in a slum out in India. I'm like, I want to just create more opportunities. So there were 3 things that I wanted. I wanted to work with other artists. I wanted to give back. I wanted to do music. And I wanted to be able to continue to work in these third world countries mobily so that I could, help them with, education and, tools and stuff that they don't have. So the thing that came to mind was the one thing that I know how to do best is book shows. That's the one thing I know how to do. And so it was like, I can show everybody else how to do this too, how you can travel the world. How can you, some of the most amazing places I've been, to like go to Tahiti and Bora Bora and be, swimming in islands, and everyone else is paying to be there. And I'm getting paid to be there. Everyone else is spending thousands of dollars. I'm walking away with thousands of dollars. I'm like, this is something that I know other artists would love to do. So I started working with other artists, and the very first band I worked with, they were on tour within a week. So they ended up in Jamaica within 7 days. So I thought, okay, cool. I that was confirmation. I'm like, okay, I got this. I can do this with anybody that has a little bit of talent. And so, I created the course. It was an online idea where it was like, let me just show everybody the exact steps to take. So if they take these exact steps within just a couple of weeks, they could be performing, because I've already done all the, had all the blood, sweat, and tears of those 8 years, trying to figure out how to make a living. And, let me package it in something where anybody around the world could learn how to do this. And they can learn how to book cruise ships, and they can learn how to perform on resorts, and they can learn how to set up their own tours, performing wherever they want to, without having to sell tickets, without having to rely on fans, without a record label, without an investor, without a manager. Let me show them how to do all this. So that allowed that. And then not only that, I mentioned that I like to be mobile and I like to work in a lot of these other communities around the world. I could do all of that from my computer. So I could help other people booking, starting their music career from my computer. So that was a question I asked, and that was the answer that I got from the universe. It was like, all right, you have an amazing tool, an amazing skill that most people don't know how to do. Most people do not how to perform, don't know how to perform for a living. And so that's how I started. And it's been amazing. I've booked more than 1,000 artists in various, places around the world and locally, and help teach people how to be entirely independent. So not to even rely on anyone else, not have to put up with anybody you don't want to put up with, and to be able to choose your schedule, work when you want to, perform when and where you want to. I think it's pretty magical.
So looking into the future for that, and for like your personal career, which one do you see yourself kind of leaning towards? Let's say within the next 12 months and then within the next 5 years, do you think that that's going to be something that overtakes performing yourself, or is it just going to be like an add-on to what you're currently doing?
I think it's an add-on, and it's a really great add-on because for me, I have some really, I have 2 albums I'm releasing next year. So, and one of them I'm working with a great friend of mine. His name is Frankie Moreno, and he just broke every Latin Billboard chart that he has. He has 6 albums that hit top 10 Billboard charts. He knocked out like Michael Jackson, and he's an independent artist. I bet you've never even heard of him. And
I have not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he did this independently. And so for me, I get excited about that. I talk about how to book shows independently. So now for me, I'm working with this producer. So I have two albums that I'm releasing. I'm starting a headlining show in the spring in Las Vegas as an independent artist doing original music. So this will be a new venture for me. So I just like to break down like walls, even people go, again, for you to break Billboard charts, you have to be signed. Well, now I reached out and made a partnership again, a collaboration with someone who just broke all those records. Michael Jackson had 3 top 10 albums on Billboards, and, Frankie had 6 in 1 year. So, I'm working on that. And, and in the meantime, I love to share how I do it. So the way I get excited about this is, I want to break records. I'm going to do this. I have a headlining show coming up. No female has a headlining show in Vegas off of original music unless they're famous. So I'm going to do it without being famous. I'm going to do this independently. So that's going to come up next year in the spring. And then as I do it, I'm going to show the rest of the world how to do it through my platform. So I just love empowering other people. So I get empowered by empowering other people. So I'm like, let me break down some myths. Let me show people, that whatever people believe in their mind, it has to be this way. I'm going to do it another way. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to then show everybody exactly how I did it so they can do it for themselves too. Because I think most people do it and then they're like, I don't want to show anybody. I don't want anybody else to do it. I get excited by showing other people how to empower themselves through music. So I'm excited to be able to partner both of those things to continue my music career and in that same path, enable other people to create their own music careers.
And so how do you see yourself growing the coaching business aspect of it? Are you doing any advertising for that, or is that mostly word of mouth spreading for, artists are just like, she booked me for these, and then they tell their artist friends, or do you personally do advertising for it?
Yeah. So mostly right now I do partnerships. Again, I always, use that word partnerships. So I work with a lot of like vocal coaches, other people that have worked with talented people that don't know the business aspect. So a lot of the vocal coaches, if someone has like an email list of like 5,000 people, I do webinars every week where I teach musicians how to, find venues that have money, because a lot of artists think that you have to do free shows, they think they have to do open mics, they think you have to get discovered, by somebody. And I like to break down that belief. And so once a week, usually on Sundays, I do a webinar where I invite people from all over the world. They log on, and for 2 hours, I show them how I created my career. And then I show them one way to find venues for free, anywhere you want to perform around the world that has live music. And so what I do is I take those partnerships with those vocal coaches or musician coaches, schools, other people that have great email lists of people who have the talent, but they don't know the business aspect. And they send out some emails and they invite them to my webinars, and I do a profit share with them. So I give those vocal coaches and those, music teachers and those schools, a profit share. And so they make money, I make money. And then the students, they learn how to make money. So everybody wins, everybody comes up together, and, music wins, more music for the world. And, people are able to make a living doing what they love. So that's been mostly my strategy. I will start advertising soon. That's something, that I'll be doing actually within the next month. So you may even see those Facebook ads on there, Omari. So we'll see.
Hey, I'll be looking forward to them. I'll comment on there, and I'll be your co-signer.
Perfect.
So the one question, wrapping up a little bit here, that we have to ask everybody who comes on the show: what is the one biggest thing you wish you knew when you first got started on your journey to working full-time in the music business?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a big one. Let me think about that. The one thing that I knew. Okay, this one's a good one.